Welcome everyone. Today we're going to be doing episode 6 for the Data Structure and Algorithms course. Uh, Today we're going to be talking about abstract data types and mainly the theory behind them. Specifically, we're going to be looking at stacks and queues, but we'll talk about that when we get there. Now, to begin with, what is an abstract data type? Well, an abstract data type is, it's a type or a class, some people, but basically the main goal of it is to set up values in such a way that you can access the data and you can change the data in a certain type of format. We've previously looked at linked lists and array lists. So linked list is a type of abstract data type because we can think about how the theory behind it works. Well, you have a whole bunch of nodes that store data, and again, if we go back, you can access and modify that data in specific ways in a linked list. So when I look at abstract data type, we can break that up into two words. The first word is abstract, meaning it's not been implemented, it's just the theory behind it. And then data type is just an object. So an abstract data type is the theory of some kind of object. And again, as I've previously said, linked lists fall into that category as well as array lists, but we can talk about that later. Now, what are some common abstract data types that we're going to talk about? The first one is stacks. So stacks are like a stack of cards. In a sense, well, you start off with a table, and in this case, if we're looking at a linked list, the table would be considered the head, and then we start putting cards on top. So if we wanted to add a new card, we put it on top the table. So this would be the first card we've added. And then we do it again and again. Now, one thing to notice is the first one we added here, this one, is going to be the last one we take out. Because when you take off of a stack of cards, you take the top element off first. So when we have something in that format, we say that it is first in, last out, or LIFO. FILO. There we go. First in, last out order. So this would be in FILO order. Because say we've added to our stack of cards here. If we wanted to remove, since we're removing from the top of the deck, we'd be removing position 2 first. And then we'd return that value of position 2. And say we want to remove everything, the next thing to come off the stack of cards would be position 1. And then lastly, position 0. And then once you remove the last element, you start back with the table, and you have nothing in your stack. So now the next thing we're going to talk about is the methods associated with stack. Previously, we've been using simple things like, add and remove. But there are specific methods for that. In this case, the methods that are associated with a stack are as follows. Empty, which returns true or false, depending on if it's empty or not. Peek, which basically says, let's look at the top card, but we're not going to remove it. Pop removes the top element, so we're popping a card off the deck. And then push is basically adding, where we add a card to the top, or we push a card on top of the deck. And then, of course, search goes through the whole stack to see if something's found. But in essence, peek is to look at the first element, pop is to remove, and push is to add. Now that we have this understanding of what a stack is supposed to do, let's look at another abstract data type. Let's look at something called a queue. So a queue is similar to waiting in line at a grocery store. And when you're waiting in line at a grocery store, the first person that goes in is going to be the first one that sees. So we have, let's say, a human being here, and they're checking out groceries. Well, one person comes in line, and again, we're going to use add and remove, but we'll change that to what it's supposed to be later on. So we're adding into the queue, at position 0, one person. And then let's add a couple more people in line. So now we have a couple of people in line, or in the queue, and then we're just taking off the first person that came in. So we want to remove the first person, and they're going to go do up and around, and they're going to get checked out. And then the other people move up in the list. So now the second person is going to be the first one in the list, and then so on and so forth. Remember, if you're thinking about a queue, you can think about it as waiting in line at the grocery store and how to implement that. As I previously said, we were doing add and remove, but let's talk a little bit about the actual methods associated with it. The methods associated with a queue is as follows. Add, which adds the element. Element is similar to peek, well, it's looking at the next person in line. Peek is the same exact thing. There's a little bit of a difference on if the queue is empty or not. So I just recommend staying with peek. Then you have remove, which, as previously stated, is just, removing somebody off. These are similar with NQ and DQ. So NQ basically is similar to add, or entering the queue, and then DQ is similar to remove. These are synonymous. They change a lot, but depending on how you implement them, you get to decide what the method call is. Well, that's about it for the abstract data type. It's pretty simple and straightforward. Eventually I'll get around to making the application for this and programming it out for you guys. Thank you for your time and have a nice day.